Planning to take a trip that might challenge or change your current travel style? Not sure how to best prepare for a vacation with other family members, friends, a new addition to your family, or perhaps even going on a solo adventure? Today we audited our summer travels to bring you 4 key tips that will ensure your next trip is a stress-free success no matter who you bring.
Welcome to the Travel More podcast.
Each episode, we share custom itineraries, travel hacks, expert advice, and even stories of our past travel failures to help you level up your travel game.
I'm Shelly, a lover of plans, itineraries, and cheap flights. I'm an expert deal finder with one eye always on the budget.
And I'm Bruce, the improviser, ready to pick up where plans fail to turn letdowns into unexpected trip favorites. We're here to bust through barriers that stop you from making your travel dreams a reality.
So book that flight, buy the tickets, and say hello to your next adventure.
This is the Travel More Podcast. Welcome back to the Travel More Podcast.
Welcome. End of summer. We're out of summer school now and into real school, for us at least.
It's almost fall.
Almost.
I really felt like it was time to just overhaul the fall decorations because it got cold here.
Well, I was going to say, it's so interesting.
Cold's relative.
Well, no, it's a little chilly. It's so funny, though, because I never thought of back to school as like a cold time, because in the South, August is anything but cold.
Yeah, I think I asked you yesterday when, in the morning it's like... It's 50s, 60s at night, and the air, like you still hear the bugs, feel like summer, but the sun is different, the plants look a little different, and I'm like, this feels like football practice in school, and you're like, this feels like Thanksgiving. And I'm like, no way, Thanksgiving you could have snow.
Nah, not where I'm from. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about kind of what we learned this summer, because as we were kind of talking about this, we were like, man, traveling with a baby was both harder than I expected and easier. Kind of like depends on what we're talking about, and we were kind of talking about the different things that came up, and I was like, man, a lot of this is not just like baby travel.
Yeah, this is not just specific to traveling with a baby or traveling with kids.
Yeah, it's like traveling with anyone or even by yourself, kind of depending on how you kind of take the tips, I guess. But really, I think it helps these different things when traveling with anyone else. So like multi-generational trips or even friends or work trips with colleagues, like literally anytime you're traveling with someone else, unless you are exactly the same traveler, which I think is fairly rare. Like you and I are like almost exactly the same, but I think that's almost like handicapped us a bit in the terms of what we're talking about today. Yeah,
because we've had plenty of time now and years to travel together, so we have a flow and a style, travel styles, like we talked about in the past, that we understand.
Right.
So once we had to change that up, it was like an audit almost of like how we travel, and thinking through both planning and when we're actually in the trip, what are the different things that are helpful, what was not helpful, and how they can apply to pretty much anybody, whether you're beginning to know what is your style and what do you want, what do you prioritize, and what should you be prepared for.
Which we are going to talk about in a later episode. If you're like travel style, that's going to come up.
Or if you're someone who like, you have that set up for you, but you're going to change it up, like maybe you're going to travel with some family, or maybe you are having a kid, or you want to be a solo traveler, whatever it might be. I think what we've discovered this summer are some things, like reinforce some things that we always knew to be true that were helpful, and then there's some new tips that I think we discovered.
Yeah, and I think we kind of mentioned this before the summer, like when we were thinking about traveling, we're like, wow, it almost feels like we're new travelers again, which in some ways is really fun because it's like, oh, I'm like thinking about things that I never thought about. And in other ways, it's a little more challenging because I'm thinking about things I never thought about. It's kind of a double-edged sword there. But I think all in all, it's just good kind of general tips for kind of looking at yourself as a traveler. And as things change in the traveling world, like, we may have to keep coming back to this idea a little more than we did in years past. So I'm grateful to see where this goes.
Definitely. And I don't think we actually went over all our trips this summer.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, we may have, Shelly and I had bold plans that we were supposed to be done kind of with our outline of the year's episodes before the summer or even during the summer, and now we're kind of like where we always are,
which is like recording like as it releases. Yeah.
Yes. So
Hot off the press.
It's coming to you fresh out the kitchen.
Yeah.
So.
And if you're new here, we have an 8-month-old baby now. She's born in December. And so here's kind of an overview of what we have done thus far with said baby. Which is one, when she was 3 months old, we took her to Vermont, and 4 months old, we took her on her first plane ride. And that was back in Memphis to see my family. And then this summer we went to Ireland and Italy. That was like a 2-week trip. Then we came back and then almost immediately actually we came back and my dad was here. So we went to a whole bunch of beach day trips and other kind of day trips around here. Then we went to Maine with the family. And then we came back and we just went to Disney. And Disney, it was something that's very easy for us because we've gone quite a bit. But it's interesting now because everything we're kind of having to think about is a little different with the baby. And one I think that we've never thought about, never even considered, was accessibility. And I was pretty surprised at how not accessible much of Italy was. I don't know. I just think that that's such a push in the US, and I just kind of assumed it was everywhere, but I've never used it in the US or otherwise, so I just kind of assumed it was all the same, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it is absolutely not the same. Even in Maine, when we went, we had to like pick up the stroller to go into different stores.
In Portland?
In Portland, yeah.
Well, Portland is an older city.
No, and I get that. And so there's a lot of Italy too.
That was my point, is like, it's things that you may not have thought about that you're going to have to think about given your situation is kind of one of the tips that we'll talk about. But yeah, accessibility. Definitely traveling abroad without any of the other challenges, just like the time change, all that kind of stuff. Just the thing that we didn't realize is how often we'd have to carry the stroller. Now we were prepared. I mean, we had a very lightweight stroller, but still it was a big thing to consider. And also thinking about styles, the difference between, I think our trips went from most stressful to least stressful.
Yeah.
So like definitely traveling abroad and touring different places was not relaxation.
No.
While we tried to have that built in, it was definitely intentionally, and that's important part of this, is like half the battle of doing anything, especially travel, I think, is if you don't have the right mindset, you're going to be let down the whole time, even if what you're experiencing is good.
Yeah.
But I think it helped that we knew we were going to get into some situations that may not be totally easy.
Yeah, for sure.
So knowing that, ahead of time is helpful. Meanwhile, when we went to Disney, we've been there so much, we still live in Florida, that it's kind of just like an easy place to travel.
But it also is easy because the entire place is set up for babies and kids. And so like one example of this is we requested a crib for the room, and they give you the crib, and first of all, it's a fairly nice like mattress, but even more so, it came with 2 sheets, which if you have kids, I mean, we didn't even use a second sheet, but the point is that like there's a good chance I'm going to end up needing to change the sheets, know? And then the other side of that coin was when we went to Ireland and we had a pack and play that was like a cardboard like
box on the bottom.
Yeah, essentially, not literally, but it felt like cardboard. And then like the quote unquote cushion was just like a wrapped up towel or blanket. But I was like, I can't give her a blanket.
Yeah, it was like a regular bed blanket folded up for us.
Right. And it's like, that's
well intentioned.
Yeah, it is well intentioned, but at least, in the U.S., it's not considered safe sleep. And she was still pretty little.
Yeah, she was 6 months at that time.
Yeah, so she, it's just a lot. And so I was like, I guess you're sleeping on cardboard, which I felt terrible. I had no other option, though. So anyways, all these things.
So we've learned a lot this year.
Yeah.
And another thing I'll say before we dive into our tips, you may have heard like, wow, that's a lot. They're really lucky with their baby. And sometimes Shelly and I look at each other and like, do we get lucky with this first baby? Is she just well temperamented or whatever? Yeah. Or is it also a mix of just like what we've talked about in the past of momentum building?
Yeah.
We purposefully trialed and practiced from just the very beginning, taking walks downtown and going to a coffee shop and saying, what is it like to take her out in the stroller and to get out of the house and get in the car and drive a little bit, and ramp that up to a 2-4 hour road trip and then a short flight domestic. So by the time we went international, we had already done things to experience and learn and kind of, stumble over our failures so that we were ready for it. And I think that's a good way to go about it, especially whether or not, forget traveling with a baby, just traveling yourself, or if you want to try to do more of that. We've talked about that in the past.
Yeah, it's a building of a momentum. It's like that's why I think day trips and like what we call local travel is so important. One, because it can kind of scratch that itch if you don't have any travel plans in the near future, and it kind of gets you into that mindset of like, how do I explore a new place? And there's always going to be some challenges, and it kind of lets you experience those challenges without being so far
Right.
or being gone for so long that it feels harder to like come back from them, if that makes sense. So it's like if you go to a restaurant and you realize that they haven't updated their website in 15 years and it was actually closed on Mondays and Tuesday when you're there, that's disappointing. And you can kind of like, I guess, get through that of like, okay, so I can't just plan every single second, and it's easier to do that when you're somewhere for a day and then you come home and you're like, okay, I learned something from that, as opposed to being somewhere for 2 weeks and then immediately feeling overwhelmed of like, oh my gosh, my 2 week plans. So, that's I just mean like it's that momentum is kind of how I think it helps.
Yeah, you need to have the little successes and the little failures, so that if you just wait for like this one big opportunity to do something, it could really magnify something not going right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we can talk all day about, getting into like stepping up sequentially or whatever into bigger trips. But let's talk about, we kind of have like 4 main tips. Again, I think these tips are best used when traveling with others, but they're also like pretty good like self-audit of like how I travel and, just knowing yourself, I guess, because that can help you adjust when things go wrong. The first one is to take your time. We are terrible at that. Absolutely terrible. Also, if you're new here, our travel style is we will literally sprint from the second we land until we leave. And as George said, our Ugandan travel guide, we'll sleep on the plane. Like that's our travel style.
Yeah, I think we've stayed somewhere for more than 2 nights, and Shelly's like, man, this is a long time to be here.
Literally.
No, we definitely like touring, when we go places, and we have a lot that we'd like to see and do.
So we're really saying this for our own sake. Just take your time. But what we mean is having flexible itineraries. I think the thing, even if you're touring and you're going places quickly, I think the number one way to ruin a trip is to plan every second of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like doing the whole, like at 10 a.m. we're going here, and then at noon we're going here, and then it's too much.
Well, especially if you're actually reserving and buying into or getting tickets for things and you're really crunched, because then you're like, well, I can't miss it. I've already signed up for it.
Yep. And like, what if you're not hungry? Or what if... or
you fall violently ill? Yeah.
There's our trigger warning for the next story, which is maybe the most wild thing. Is wild the word? I don't even know what the word would be here. Kind of the craziest story I think we've had traveling. So Bruce often, for whatever reason, gets sick on trips, like a head cold. We think that it's just because his work is so hard that by the time he actually relaxes, his body's like, like, oh,
it's not every time.
Oh, it's almost every time.
Sometimes.
It's almost every time.
But it's usually pretty fine, manageable.
Yeah.
This is different.
Well, that's the thing, is it is usually manageable. It's like a little annoying to you, but it's not like it like totally stops you in your tracks.
Right.
This one totally stopped you in your tracks. So we went to Ireland, and then a couple of days later we got to Italy, and Bruce got like a stomach illness, I guess.
See, I totally thought it was food poisoning.
Yes.
Because, I mean, we traveled to Ireland for the easy flight and for to get adjusted to the time change.
Yep.
And then it was also a cheap flight. And I swear, I was like, we had oysters. And I'm like, it had to be that.
Yes, 100. Well, and you also want to hope it's that, because food poisoning isn't contagious. So you're like, yeah, it's food poisoning. It's food poisoning.
Right.
Like, you're thinking about that in yourself. So he gets sick. He's okay. Like, he gets sick overnight, and then he's okay the next day, but weak and tired and whatever. So he just
and pasta and Italian food is ruined for life.
No, it was like we were worried about it, but no, he got back to it. So he kind of slept and hung out for that day, and me and Ro kind of explored the Airbnb. Thankfully, it was the most beautiful Airbnb I've ever been in my entire life. And so we like looked at the view of Mount Vesuvius and the ocean. Like, it was just beautiful.
The lemon grove, is it?
Lemon
grove.
Grove. Yeah, I went to like the little town and bought us like food, and we got gelato. Just the whole thing. Very cute. Very main character energy there. But we left Bruce to to rest. The next day he was feeling better. Neither Rosie or I felt sick, so we're like, okay, maybe it's just food poisoning. Everyone's good. Let's go to Positano. So we did. And it was great. Great day. Bruce was finally eating again. We spent the day at the beach. Awesome. The only thing he couldn't do is carry Rosie up the 1,000 stairs from sea level to the top of...
Oh, dude. Yeah, you better be in hiking shape if you go to the coast, the Amalfi Coast, I guess.
Yeah, we passed many people like pass out on stairs and not from drinking. Like they could not do it. They were so tired. So yeah, you'd be ready. Anyways, so then we were good. We got back on this 1.5 hour bus that was packed. Like I'm talking like sardine packed.
Is this the one that we missed the first bus? Or the first bus was full?
I say we didn't miss it.
No, we didn't.
We were there. It was full. It didn't even
warned.
stop. We like were trying to like knock on it, and
right.
they just kept going. We're like, oh, and we looked at it. And we're like, it's full. So yeah, we thankfully got on the second bus, but again, packed like sardines. So we got there. Thankfully, everything was good on that because that would have been just
that would have been terrible,
horrendous. But
we made it back.
And then this is also the time that Rosie's 6 months old at this point, and she like had 18 million milestones happen overnight, and one of them was crawling. And we're talking like literally overnight.
Yeah, like went from like rolling over to kind of sitting up to like sprinting off the bed, which is what she did.
Yeah, she did. She went off the bed, and thankfully it was only about a 2-foot bed. Like, and we were right there because it was just that, like, you know, we went to go grab something off the floor, and then she's on the floor. So, anyways, call the pediatrician, and she's like, you know, just watch her for these things, you know, listed off some stuff. Okay, cool. She's good. Everything's good. No marks on her. Like, she's fine. She's up talking, or, you know, not talking, but not that milestone. No, we didn't get that far. Yeah, no. I just meant like she's good. She's clear. Yeah. Anyways, we go to bed. And then we wake up in the middle of the night to her throwing up. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the signs of a concussion in a baby. And we're like, we don't know what to do. Because it's like, there's a pretty good chance this is just whatever Bruce had. But also...
Yeah, but you can't take the chance.
You can't take the chance. So we talked to the Airbnb host. Then the nicest people ever. And they literally saved us. They saved us. They took us to their family doctor at like 11 p.m. And they picked up their friend who was like this guy from the UK who was fluent in both English and Italian. It was like our translator who had absolutely been drinking. But the poor guy got roped into this. He was the nicest guy.
The midnight quest.
Honestly, all of these people were just the most fantastic humans. And were really, really helpful and very calming in a pretty crazy situation. And anyways, the family doctor looked at us and they were like, she looks good. Like, she's clear, whatever, but like they didn't want to be the one to call it.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like, you really should just go to the hospital, which essentially is like an ER walk-in. But the problem with that is that we're up on this like mountain on the coast, and you've got to go through these winding roads to the one town that has the, you know, the regional pediatric hospital,
which is like 45 minutes or more away.
Yeah, so we ended up finding a taxi and doing all this in the night. Long story short, everything was fine, and it wasn't terribly expensive. And we always chalk it up to the travel tax anyway. Like Shelly and I have always had an attitude that, you know, if things unexpected happen, you shouldn't be, you know, totally unsurprised or not having it in your budget. You should always have a little bit of buffer.
The travel tax.
Yeah. And so, I mean, ultimately, though, what we learned and thinking about this is like, wow, there couldn't have been a more ridiculous, like classic, you're going to travel with a baby? And then
let's go to the emergency room. The first time. Yeah, exactly. But she was, but wait, just to wrap that up, she was fine. She did have that virus that Bruce had. She did not have a concussion. And somehow, miraculously, I never got sick.
Dude, immune. It's mom immunity.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. But I think where you were about to go with this is the idea of the flexible, like the flexible plans.
Right. Like we've never, you know, we purposefully said, okay, we're going to take it easy. And to be fair, we were really stationing in 2 different places in Italy for about 5 nights, 4 nights with a quick travel through Rome just to get to Florence. And it turned into our normal type of travel because we ate up all that relaxation time with just recovering from like this illness. But if we didn't have that, you know, and even with the time that we lost, we didn't have anything super set in stone except for like a wine tasting.
And maybe that was in Florence.
Florence, and then in Rome, I think we had Colosseum booked.
Oh yeah.
My point is a couple of things that you kind of have to book ahead of time. Yeah. We had booked, but the rest were kind of like, you know, markers or waypoints of what we might want to do.
Yeah.
So finding that middle ground of you want to ward off decision fatigue. You want to do some research and have an idea of like, these are places that would be great for breakfast. These are regions that would be great to explore. So that when you're there, you have the flexibility of hopefully not having to deal with an emergency, but also what are you actually into, or weather, all these different things that can go into it. So giving yourself buffer, more travel time, enough time to be flexible, I think is a huge tip, especially if you're traveling in a different way with different groups of people.
Yeah, I mean, and just to piggyback off that, we actually did everything we wanted to in that area of Italy. Like we had a plan of things we wanted to do, just no set days, except for Positano because we had to do the ferry. And thankfully that was the one day everyone was like not sick in between. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we just did like Pompeii. We did all of the things that we had like set out to do.
Yeah,
we just did them Grove, like rapid fire
yes.
because we, like he said, ate up all of our free time. But that's okay because we had the flexibility to do that. And we weren't like, oh, we missed this day. We missed this one. We missed this one.
So even though in the beginning it felt like we're just going to go home, like forget this. We were fine. We made it through and we had a great time.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the first tip. Take your time. And the second one, thinking of Pompeii, is pack light.
Oh, God.
We already talked about accessibility, but like honestly, there is never a reason to overpack, especially thinking about traveling with a baby. I forget who asked me, like, how did you manage to go abroad with all the stuff you need to bring for a baby? I'm like, it's not as much as you think you need.
Yeah.
Like there really is not much more. And also it's small because it's baby. So like, it's not like baby clothes take up much more. We went abroad to Europe with a carry-on size rolling bag.
I think the carry-on wasn't
a carry-on?
No, the rolling bag was a checked bag.
Oh, that's right. But it wasn't super big.
No, it was a medium
size. It was like a medium size. I forgot. Okay. Mm-hmm. Corrected. I'm thinking about the Samsonite that we use for everything else.
Oh, so terrible though.
We borrowed the nice bag.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks.
And how are we still borrowing people's suitcases? But anyway.
Yeah, that's another. We've done so much traveling. We have like the worst bag. Not the worst bags, but like.
That's very bad. If you have a rolly checked bag, we don't check bags that often, but sometimes if you have one that you love, can you please send me an email or like do the little like contact me text button or whatever?
See, the real problem is here that we're what is it, penny wise, pound foolish?
Yes.
Like Shelly and I won't buy we're like, oh my gosh, $200 for a bag, even though we spent like who knows what on trip. Anyway, the point is we didn't bring a lot. I had a 40-liter like backpack, the Osprey Porter bag.
Yep.
We had another backpack that's like the diaper bag, and then we had our rolling suitcase.
And the stroller.
Which when I think of pack light, that's the first thing I thought of. With a very lightweight, collapsible stroller.
Yep, that fit in a bag.
Fit in a bag. And thank God, because so many of the museums and historical places, I mean, they must not have cared at all for anybody in a wheelchair. It sucks because like it's very difficult to get around.
Extremely difficult. Even places that say they're accessible.
Well, that was the thing. Pompeii does have a path, but like it's cumbersome, and it definitely doesn't allow you to get everywhere you want to go.
No.
So just be wary of where you're going and what you need. Packing light, its accessibility. But the other thing is also, you get to experience a little bit of like the local life. Go to a grocery store, go to a pharmacy, get what you need.
You know, this used to be a thing like that I wasn't into, which is like cooking while you're traveling. I was like, why would you cook when you're traveling? Like that's the whole point, is to experience food. But I think as I've gotten older and also traveled more, I'm kind of into cooking while we're traveling. But I think it's because it does not mean that you have to skip out on the food. It actually means that like you can kind of experience a different part of the city, which is like the thing that people do when they actually live there, like going to the grocery store, getting food, markets,
especially wherever you are. Like it was really nice to go to both the regular kind of big supermarket, but also the local markets, and figure that out. In addition to going out to eat.
Right. So that would be a thing if I was traveling with a group or family or whatever. I would definitely like add that into my plans, even is like, we're going to cook at home on one of these days. One, it's cheaper, but also it is cool. Like it is cool to kind of experience other stores, like grocery stores and things like that. And
to practice your own, that's the easiest and like most, what's the word? Safe? You know, I feel like every time I've tried to speak another language, going to a market is pretty chill, because at the end of the day you can just like literally point
and figure
it out. But it's a good place to practice a little interaction.
Yeah, And it's just kind of fun to see what like other stores carry.
Where
It's
you
just
are.
kind of
Exactly.
cool. It's fun.
So yeah, pack light, definitely. Take your time, pack light. And our next two, I'm actually going to skip to the last one because you just talked about something I think involves this, which is like activities for everyone.
Yeah.
And, definitely if you're, I was thinking about going out to eat, and I think if you're with a family or with kids, it could be a lot more economic, or it could just be more fun to like get your accommodation include cooking or having something like that. Versus, if it's just like, let's say it's a romantic trip, or if it's just like you and your partner, maybe you're not going to do that. You want to go out to eat a lot and experience certain type of like nightlife. But we weren't going to do that.
No.
So,
I think this is one of those things. This is probably the hardest part about traveling with other people is the activities. I think as best you can, if you can all sit down. I mean, obviously Rosie is not going to tell us what she wants to do. So we kind of just have to, carry her along or find things that or skip out, I guess, on things that maybe she's not going to be great at.
Well, and we had that mindset going in because
we did.
There were some like kayaking, hiking down to beaches, activities that we would normally do.
Yes.
That we just said, this isn't the time for that.
But conversely, I think after we went to Italy, we kind of sat, and probably on the way home, and had a conversation about now that we've traveled with her in like a European city, we kind of think that actually our upcoming trips, until she can really tell us what she wants to do, may be a little more like friendly to babies/toddlers. Not that Italy wasn't friendly to babies and toddlers. They love babies and toddlers. But I just mean kind of the trip in general. Like she was still...
More of the activities, not just the
location. Because she was definitely still, for a lot of it, just along for the ride and did not really have her own wants and desires. But towards the end, as we said, she started to crawl and things. So she was a little bit like, no, I don't really want to sit in the stroller all day. I kind of want to crawl. Like I want to practice this skill I just got. And so now I think we're going to focus on our trips being like, like beach center, which is not usually something Bruce and I are into, but is very fun with the baby, and I think that that's another thing to think about when we talk about activities for everyone is maybe consider the place you're going to. Like, is the place itself just lend itself to being like easily accessible to all? And I don't literally mean accessible, but I mean like people will like things that are there.
Yeah. What are the options for activities? And the more varied a group, the more challenging this is. That's why Shelly and Alf and I talk about like why we like cruises for multi-generational trips, because it makes it a little easier.
But like going somewhere like a big city is going to be the absolute hardest place to travel with people, because there's an infinite amount of choices of you can do.
Right.
And they all take you in different directions. And there's a million different restaurants and it's just like decision fatigue.
And even the most agreeable group of people that are willing to split up, it takes forever.
Yes.
Because everyone's trying to like, okay, is that okay? Is that fine? Are we doing it? You're going to go to the show. You're going to go to the museum, whatever. I think it's tough. So definitely something to think about and consider where you're going. That isn't to say you can't have an accommodation where one group is going to do something and the other's not. That's we're not saying that. We're not saying like every little thing.
No, but it just makes it more difficult. So when you think about activities for everyone, it's like you are going to do one of two things. You're either going to pick a destination that everyone can kind of find what they want to do. So for example, a beach, it's like some people are going to swim, some people are going to like read a book, some people are going to do sandcastles or go jet skiing or whatever. Like, but they can all do it because we're all there and they can just go and do it. They don't have to like really plan it. So you're either going to do that with a destination, or you are going to have to do a little more planning and be like, on Tuesday, half the group is going to go to the park and half the group is going to go see the show. Like it's going to be a little more of that. But going back to our first point, then you have to be ready kind of with the travel tax that things may not go exactly as planned, and you're just going to have to go with the flow there because, I'm thinking you got an elementary school kid or anybody really, and they're going to be in the show group, but all of a sudden they are sick that day and they, and someone has to stay back with them. There's always something.
Right.
So it's about being flexible and then knowing which trip are we taking. Are we taking one where the destination is open and people can kind of do what they want? Or are we taking one that is not like that and we really need to, before we get there, not the morning of, and it takes us till 11:30 to figure out, what are we doing that day and who's going which way? Because I think we also fall into that sometimes with our family trip, which is, it's just a lot of people. There's like, 9 of us now, 10 of us, something like that. And it's just a lot of people to manage, and not everyone wants to do the same thing, and that's fine. But I think it's just about thinking, okay, on Tuesday, this group's going that way and this group's going that way.
Or Tuesday's the day we have the option to go shop or have a certain food.
And then you choose when you, and then you choose when you get there, which group you're going with.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a little bit of planning, and hopefully it makes it enjoyable for everybody involved. So
yep.
And for our last tip, so far I've been thinking like a lot of this is flexibility based.
Yeah.
And this last one I think is a little bit more about your budget.
Yeah.
Because it's planning or budgeting for more convenience. Which, if you don't have the budget for it to just say, you know what, this time I'm going to just add on all this. I'm going to get airport transfers instead of, taking a cheaper train. You might want to take away from some of the budget to have the convenience, especially if you think about accessibility or like a baby. We were so glad that... Or big groups. Like, put the money towards the thing that's going to really take the stress and the burden off the group. And sometimes that means investing in having a van that you're renting as opposed to trying to figure out public transport. And I think it's important that you know that ahead of time. So it's not a surprise cost, or you're not pretending like you're going to be able to manage it without it.
Yeah.
So budget it for convenience, and whether that's like your accommodation style, so you might need to have a kitchen or a washer dryer.
Or pay more to be in the city center as opposed to outside the city center.
Again, it goes back to what are your priorities, but if you don't know them ahead of time, you're going to get there and your travel tax is going to be bigger.
A lot bigger. Yeah, and then you're going to be like, I don't know how people afford to travel. And it's like, well, some of these things are kind of important to think about beforehand. So like, we didn't just go for 100% convenience this entire time. Like, we definitely had things that we chose and other things we didn't. So like you're saying, we had airport transfers. Like, that was something we paid for because it was like a plane, train, and automobile situation trying to get to the first Airbnb. And I was like, this is just not worth it. Like, this is not the way to start off this vacation with the baby and everything else.
Getting off that first flight, I wanted to just be from the airport to my accommodation.
Yes.
So it was totally worth the money.
Totally worth the money. But something we would never have bought in the past.
No, because we would have looked at that as that's taking away from our budget for other things as opposed to adding in something that makes it manageable and enjoyable.
But on the other hand, like, we did take a bus down to Sorrento and then a train from Sorrento to Naples and then a train from Naples to Rome to get to Rome. We could have also had a private transfer there, but that was like 500 euros.
Or rent a car.
Don't
do that in Italy, by the way. Oh my God. Don't ever rent a car in Italy. I thought I didn't get a ticket. I just found out I got a ticket.
But it was for a mistake. Yeah, it's fine. It's annoying. But in any case...
I'll never be able to travel again.
No.
They're coming for me.
See, that's the travel tax.
That's the travel. I tried so hard, guys.
I know, you did. But in any case... so part of it was we didn't spend money on every single convenience. Like, we picked and chose our different things. But having the rental car was another one. We could have technically taken a bus, I think, but it was really funky to get out to like Tuscany. And it was like, we'll just pay the money to buy the car. And not only that, we paid more money for a nicer car rental that was more convenient to us, like closer to our Airbnb and things like that. So I think finding those moments where it just makes sense to buy for the convenience. And then other places where you don't mind the adventure a little bit. I think that's a big help with a group setting.
Yeah. So I think that sums it up. The 4 main takeaways. Looking at our summer trip and kind of what we learned traveling with our baby. Take your time, be flexible, pack light, budget for convenience and activities, plan for things that everybody is going to be able to do or have choices.
Yeah.
And you will enjoy yourself and have a low travel tax, hopefully.
And low travel stress, which I think is the main
ideally.
Thing. Yeah. Well, anyways, I'm sure we'll come back with 15 million more points as we, grow in our relearning how to travel, like relearning how to walk. Like, it's all new to us again.
First time.
We can't wait to bring you more tips, and we have a lot of really cool stuff coming up the pipeline.
Yep, thanks for listening.
Bye.
See you.
Did you know that every time you book a Disney or Universal vacation, you're paying for a service that you may not even be using?
Really?
That's right. Travel agent costs are added to your Disney or Universal vacation, whether you use one or not.
So you're telling me that I'm paying for something even though I'm not getting the help?
You get it. So next time you want to book a theme park vacation, make your money work for you. By booking with Magic Pass Travel, you'll get our expertise and years of experience without paying any extra and while supporting a small business.
Check out our show notes to find our contact information.
Can't wait to help you plan your next adventure.